For over 1,000 years, one name defined the reach of human ambition and the power of organized civilization: Rome. It began not as a grand empire, but as a small cluster of villages in central Italy, growing through a relentless combination of military discipline, strategic alliances, and political innovation. The Roman Republic forged a society where citizens were soldiers and the rule of law was supreme, allowing it to defeat powerful rivals like Carthage and claim dominance over the Mediterranean. However, the sheer weight of these conquests eventually fractured Rome's internal politics, leading to a century of civil wars that paved the way for the rise of its first emperor, Augustus. Under his rule, the Republic transitioned into a centralized empire, marking the start of the Pax Romana, a two-century period of relative peace and unprecedented stability. During this golden age, Rome's influence stretched from the deserts of Africa to the rainy borders of Britain, held together by a vast network of stone roads, a professional standing army, and a shared legal system that transformed the ancient world. Yet the very vastness that defined Rome's greatness eventually became the catalyst for its undoing. By the 3rd century, the empire began to buckle under its own weight as a series of systemic failures took hold. Economic instability, fueled by hyperinflation, heavy taxation, and a reliance on slave labor, drained the imperial treasury, while a succession of weak leaders and military coups eroded the authority of the state. To manage the sprawling territory, the empire was eventually split into eastern and western halves, but this division only highlighted the vulnerabilities of the west. As the Roman legions were stretched thin across thousands of miles of frontier, migratory Germanic tribes, fleeing the advance of the Huns, began to breach the borders in search of land and safety. Rome, once thought invincible, was sacked by the Visigoths in 410.
Defend our sacred laws!
Leading to a century of civil wars that paved the way for the rise of its first emperor. Under his rule, the Republic transitioned into a centralized empire held together by a professional standing army, a vast network of stone roads that transformed the ancient world. By the 3rd century, the empire began to buckle under its own weight as a series of systemic failures took hold. To manage the sprawling territory, the empire was eventually split into eastern and western halves. Fleeing the advance of the Huns began to breach the borders in search of land and safety. The final collapse arrived in 476, and the fall of the West marked the end of an era.